Listen, I need to tell you about my night shift at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. You're not going to believe half of what I'm saying, but I swear every word is true. This place, it's wrong. Everything about it is fundamentally wrong. Night 4 started like the others. Midnight came, I clocked in, sat down at the security desk. The monitors flickered to life, and I started my usual routine. Check the stage, check the halls, check Pirate Cove, standard procedure. But something felt different, immediately. The air was thicker somehow, like the building itself was holding its breath. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It hit me around 12:30. This putrid, rotting odor seeping through the vents. Not like old pizza or garbage. This was organic decay, the kind of smell that makes your stomach turn and your throat close up. I checked the dining area camera, thinking maybe something died in the walls. That's when I saw Bonnie staring directly into the camera lens, not moving, not performing, just staring with those dead eyes that suddenly didn't look so dead anymore. I switched cameras and he was gone from the stage, completely vanished in the 2 seconds it took me to blink. I started flipping through every feed frantically. West Hall, East Hall, supply closet, kitchen. The audio in the kitchen was going insane. Pots and pans clattering, but not randomly. It sounded rhythmic, intentional, like something was playing percussion with the cookware, keeping time to a song I couldn't hear. Found Bonnie in the backstage area. He was facing the wall, standing maybe 3 inches away from it. His hands were pressed flat against the surface and his head was twitching. Small mechanical jerks left and right. Then I noticed the wall where his hands were touching. The paint was scratched away, deep gouges in the drywall like he'd been clawing at it for hours. As I watched, his fingers started moving, scraping, digging. The sound came through the monitor audio, this horrible grinding of metal on concrete. I closed that camera. My hands were already shaking, and it wasn't even 1 a.m. yet. The next hour was relatively quiet, which made it worse. The silence in that place isn't peaceful, it's expectant, like the building is waiting for something to happen. I kept checking the monitors obsessively. Freddy had moved to the dining area and was standing behind one of the tables, just standing there in the dark, barely visible in the emergency lighting. Every time I checked that camera, he'd moved slightly closer to the camera, not walking, just appearing in a new position, closer, always closer. Around 2:15, I heard children laughing, not the pre-recorded show music, real laughter, high-pitched and gleeful, echoing from somewhere deep in the building. I checked every camera but saw nothing. The laughter continued for 5 solid minutes, moving through the walls, getting closer to my office. Then it stopped abruptly, cut off mid-giggle like someone had flipped a switch. That's when Foxy started running. I saw him sprint past the West Hall camera, but he didn't stop at my door, like usual. I heard him run past the office, his metal feet pounding on the tile, and crash into something in the East Hall. The sound of metal hitting metal, followed by this electronic screech that made my teeth ache. I checked the East Hall camera. Foxy was attacking Chica. I'm not talking about bumping into her or malfunctioning. He was physically tearing at her. His hook was buried in her chest cavity, pulling out wires and endoskeleton pieces. Chica wasn't fighting back. She just stood there while Foxy dismantled her, her head tilted down, watching her own body being destroyed. Then her head snapped up toward the camera and her jaw unhinged. It kept opening wider than should be possible until her entire head split apart like a mechanical flower blooming. Something dark dripped out. Not oil. Too thick. too red. I switched cameras because I couldn't watch anymore. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. When I switched back 30 seconds later, they were both gone. Just a pile of wires and mechanical parts on the floor and a trail of that dark fluid leading toward the bathroom. 3 a.m., halfway through the shift. The power was at 60% and dropping faster than normal. Something was draining it. I hadn't even used the doors that much yet. I started conserving, checking cameras less frequently, sitting in darkness between checks. That's when I heard the humming. A child's voice, soft and melodic, coming from the vent above me. I looked up and saw small fingers reaching through the grate. Tiny hands, too small to belong to any of the animatronics. They were grasping at the air, clenching and unclenching rhythmically. The humming continued, some lullaby I didn't recognize. Then the fingers retreated, and something else appeared at the grate. An eye, a human eye, pale blue and bloodshot, pressed against the metal slats. It rolled in its socket, searching, until it found me. We made eye contact, and the humming stopped. The eye blinked once, very slowly, and then disappeared. The vent cover rattled violently for a few seconds, then everything went silent again. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. That wasn't an animatronic. That was something else, something that had no business being in this building. 3:30. The power hit 40%. I was rationing every camera check, every light click. That's when I first saw Spring Bonnie. The parts and service room camera showed him standing in the corner. I'd never seen this animatronic before. Yellow, rabbit-like, but wrong somehow. His proportions were off. Too tall, too thin, with longer arms than Bonnie. His suit was deteriorated, with visible tears showing the endoskeleton beneath. But what caught my attention was his posture. He was hunched over something on the floor. I zoomed in as much as the camera would allow. It was Toy Bonnie's head. The plastic shell was cracked open, and Spring Bonnie had his face buried in it. His jaw was moving, chewing, grinding. He was eating the internal mechanisms, the wires, the circuit boards, consuming them methodically like someone savoring a meal. Oil and hydraulic fluid dripped down his chin, staining his yellow fur dark. Then he stopped. His head slowly rotated toward the camera without his body moving. A full 180-degree turn that no animatronic joint should allow. He stared at the lens with eyes that glowed a faint, sickly white. His jaw hung open, revealing rows of metal teeth coated in plastic shards and black oil. He knew I was watching. Spring Bonnie stood up, his body unfolding in segments like an insect. He was at least 7 feet tall when fully extended. He dropped the remnants of Toy Bonnie's head and walked toward the camera. Each step was wrong. His knees bent backwards, his feet scraped the floor, his arms hung at angles that made my brain hurt to process. He got close enough that his face filled the entire screen. That's when I saw the reality of what I was looking at. There was something inside the suit. Behind the eyes, behind the mechanical parts, there was organic matter, flesh, muscle, bone. All of it decayed and rotting, but still somehow functional, still animated. The white glow in his eyes wasn't electronics. It was something else, something that had been human once. The camera went to static. When it cleared 5 seconds later, Spring Bonnie was gone. The parts and service room was empty, except for Toy Bonnie's destroyed head, lying in a pool of fluids. I started checking every camera compulsively. I had to find him. I had to know where he went. Show stage showed Freddy alone. Chica and Bonnie were both missing now. The dining area was empty. The kitchen audio was silent. West Hall clear, East Hall clear. Pirate Cove showed Foxy peeking out, but his eyes were focused on something outside the camera's view. I checked the bathroom camera, which barely works most of the time. The image was dark and grainy, but I could make out a shape in one of the stalls. Someone was in there, standing completely still. The stall door was hanging open, and this figure was just standing in front of the toilet, facing the wall. Their proportions looked wrong. Too tall, too thin, with long ears extending above their head. Spring Bonnie was in the bathroom. As I watched, his head began to turn, slowly rotating to face the camera. But his body remained facing the wall, just his head, twisting on his neck like an owl. When he completed the turn and looked directly at me through the camera, his jaw dropped open, wider and wider, until his entire face split open, revealing the rotted skull inside the animatronic head. He screamed. No sound came through the audio feed, but I could see him screaming, his jaw unhinged, his tongue black and swollen. The camera cut to static and didn't come back. 4 a.m. power at 30%. I had 1 hour and 40 minutes left, and the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Multiple animatronics were off the grid. Strange things were happening that had nothing to do with normal robot malfunctions. And Spring Bonnie was somewhere in the building, hunting. I heard scratching at my door. Not knocking. Scratching. Like fingernails on metal. Slow and deliberate. I hit the door light for the West Hall. Nothing there. The scratching continued. I realized it was coming from inside the wall beside the door. Something was in the walls, moving between the offices. The scratching traveled along the wall, past my head, toward the other door. I traced its movement, hearing it scrape through the infrastructure of the building. It stopped at the East Hall door. I waited, finger hovering over the door light button. The scratching resumed, but different now, faster, more aggressive. Something was trying to claw through the wall. I could hear the drywall cracking, could see dust falling from the ceiling tiles. Whatever was in there was big enough to damage the structure. The wall bulged inward, just slightly, but enough to see. Something pressed against it from inside, creating a distinct impression. It looked like a hand, a large hand with too many fingers. The fingers spread apart, pressing harder, and I heard the metal studs in the wall start to bend. I hit the door button, closed the East Hall entrance completely. The bulging stopped. The scratching ceased. Everything went quiet. Then I heard breathing, heavy, wet breathing, right outside my closed door. Something was standing there. I could see its shadow through the gap at the bottom of the door. 2 large feet with 3 toes each. Animatronic feet. But they were moving in a way animatronics don't move. Shifting weight from side to side. Fidgeting. Alive. The breathing continued for 2 full minutes. Then footsteps, walking away, slow and measured. I counted each step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They stopped. I checked the East Hall camera. Spring Bonnie was standing directly in front of it. On 2 legs now, upright, but hunched over like his spine couldn't quite support his height. His arms hung past his knees, with fingers that were too long, tipped with metal claws that scraped the floor. His head was tilted again, that same 90-degree angle, and he was smiling. The suit's permanent smile was already disturbing, but this was different. The mouth was moving, stretching, getting wider. He raised one hand and pointed at the camera, at me. Then he brought his finger to where his lips would be in a shushing gesture. Be quiet. Don't make noise. Don't let them know you see. The camera went dark, not static, just black, dead.